Somebody's got to have that information, certainly.
I don't have that information. I can get it. Maybe Mr. Wiedemeyer's got it.
Mr. Wiedemeyer.
I apologize. I don't have those numbers with me, but they're more than what First T's been using.
That would be pretty substantial.
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Guilfoyle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tom, I actually have brought this up to our attorney. The clause where it's convenient to terminate clause in there, where is that at?
I'll let
Mr. McKenzie.
Sure. There's no convenience termination clause in this agreement. What it does have in it is there's termination for default, and that was part of the RFQ that was put together, I guess, to optimize the opportunity for potential bidders to bid on the project. So that clause is not in this contract.
Okay.
As far as that, when we spoke about it this past week, you said you would look into it, and I'm pretty sure implemented into this contract. Now, that's to cover us people, the citizens of Augusta. Is that correct?
Part of the reason that it wasn't implemented initially was because it was not part of the RFQ. Typically, I believe that the part of that process was to be all-inclusive with regard to the number of potential bidders, and this would minimize the risk to bidders because it would not put them in a position where they would have a substantial amount of resources they may have put into it, and then we could terminate for any reason with a 60-day notice provision. So it was not part of the RFQ process, so it would not be appropriate for us to add it afterwards unless the other party agreed.
It was not part of their RFQ as well. We inquired with clause, sir.
I have done that, Tom.
Okay, Commissioner Hadney.
Mr. Beck, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think you mentioned that even though the room for negotiations outside the contract, but according to what was mentioned by the individual that we were speaking of, he said that you can't have your cake and eat it too. That's what he said according to his TV appearance. I doubt very seriously there's going to be any outside negotiation on that.
Okay, gentlemen, Commissioner Lockett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, it seems like over the past 10 years, the patch has been set up to fail. That was a commission meeting on September 5, 2006. A couple of my colleagues on the commission at that time. This was when the Recreation Department wanted to transfer $35,000 from a fund they had to pay for part-time employees. And the rationale was, they said as of August the 10th of 2006, we have spent $54,215 on water for the patch. And they said in order for us to make it through the remainder of the year, we're going to need an additional $35,000. And several commissioners were extremely upset because of this. Now this happened, and within a week later, the Director of Utilities put out a letter stating that the patch would only have to pay $143 a month. Now, y'all have known sometime, and during that meeting in September, it was said that we are sick and tired of supporting the patch. We're having to pay $60,000 to $100,000 a year. We're having to subsidize them. But if you look at the water rate they were paying, if they would not have had to pay that exorbitant rate for water, they would have been breaking even. You know, and I cannot understand how people of good conscience could let the First Tee and let the patch pay that ridiculous amount for water when you have Forest Hills, you have Augusta Country Club, and others paying nothing. It doesn't make sense. And I think one other thing that we need to make sure that we understand, I think the Patch LLC thinks they are buying the patch because they've already changed the name. We're not selling it to them. And I think what we are doing is we are giving them a heck of a subsidy in order to get $1,000 a month in return. I think that's a bad deal. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Burns.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Being one of those members of the commission up here in 2006, we voted to lower the rates for the municipal golf course, so it would be $143 a month, so they wouldn't lose $170,000, $200,000 a year. And it did cut the loss down to about $160,000 a year. We tried everything to salvage the patch, and now I hear people say we need to raise the rates because somebody else is going to run it. All that's going to do in turn is raise the rates on the people playing golf there. If we want to keep this a public golf course and affordable, let's keep it a level playing field for the people running the golf course to try to do that. And let's take the burden off our taxpayers of $200,000 just because we have 95 to 200 members of the patch golf course. This is a golf community, but it doesn't mean that everybody in Augusta plays golf. We need to make it a level playing field, and this is going to save our taxpayers $160,000 a year, and this is the best deal we've had, and we can keep saying we need to wait more time, and
That motion carries 6-4 with Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson voting no. Mr. Johnson voting no. Mr. Mason, Mr. Lockett, Mr. Hatney.